Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Thursday, July 9th. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. Andrew Hansen to work on a KBO slate tonight that has a lot of rain, which is our biggest nightmare, but we're going to get through it. But before we jump into that, Andrew, why don't you share with our listeners what an awesome night we had last night as an entire Coach Talk team?
Oh, yeah, it was really terrific. I'm psyched. Sugar Shane and I were on the podcast, and he was all over Alcantara for Doosan, and he pitched a gem. He was terrific. So that's the pitcher we used on our FanDuel lineup that we gave out to members.
Yeah.
And Shane took down first place in a $100 contest for $850. And
Beautiful.
One of our members was in second place, and we had multiple members cash in other contests. So it was really just a terrific night for everybody. And one of the things we do at DFS Coach Talk is we talk to our members a lot about contest selection. And that was the real difference. Both Shane and our member were in a single entry contest, and that's why they were able to take down first and second place.
Yeah, and I love that strategy. I mean, that's what I play as a cash player. I play, multipliers and head-to-heads, but I also play single entry tournaments. I steer from the multiple entry 150 max kind of, deals, because you have to have a lot, why take a single bullet or even two or three bullets against 150? So, Shane and some of our members did as well. They played in some $5 single entries, $25, $50, $100 single entries. Those are the best, man. And there's a lot of them on DraftKings that you can play and on FanDuel. But you got to get in those FanDuel ones early because they don't have as many choices as DraftKings. So that was a big part of Shane, taking that one down, as he was able to get in there, as well as our man Justice, who got in there also. So, when we're giving out these hybrid lineups in KBO, and if there's a hybrid that we're giving out in other sports, I really strongly suggest doing some cash plays to build the bankroll, and then getting in some of those single entries, because it's the easiest way to take down some big cash without having to have a perfect score. Like if you looked at the score that Shane took that tournament down with, it was fantastic, and Alcantara was one of the key factors for sure. But if you get in like that, the little ones, the $3 ones that are 150 max, you got to get like 30 more points. I mean, you almost have to play so many different combinations. So it's just a whole different entity. And you get in those, that score in that tournament would have probably won him $10. So it goes to show you that contest selection is so key in bankroll management. So I know I've mentioned this on multiple podcasts, but if you have a chance, go to YouTube, right, DFS Coach Talk, go to YouTube. We have a great library of podcasts, and Andrew and I did a couple of the bankroll management contest selection ones, and man, those are really good. And I'm not bragging or anything else, but I go back and listen to myself to remind myself if I stray and get lured into these milli maker and things like that. I got to make sure I stay on my path, because if you want to win with this long term, you have to be disciplined. You have to have a plan. You can't go in willy-nilly certain nights and go all in and all that. You're going to bust. It's just like, I equate it to like if you're, playing a slot machine in Las Vegas. If you just sit there long enough, eventually they get their money. Even if you hit it like 3 or 4 times, you keep playing and playing. You got to know what to play, when to step away, how to do it. So it's the same thing with DFS. So take a chance to, if you have it, and listen in on those. So
Coach, I'll mention that the podcast you're referring to that we did back in, must have been March or April, that was in the context of the NBA.
Yeah.
And so there's some great content in there about contest selection. And Coach, that's your wheelhouse, is NBA and the proper contest selection. That's what allows you to be so profitable and have that greater than 75% winning percentage. So it is specific to the NBA, but it's also applicable to multiple sports. So I also encourage people to go back and take a listen.
And I'll tell you, I'm just going to say this once about all the sports. We have the biggest advantage of anybody in the industry. We build our lineups organically. We look at the eye test, what's going on, the news, all the information. We're not just doing a statistical analysis and optimize, throwing them in an optimizer, getting percentages. And if there was ever a time that you needed to get out of that sort of building, in my opinion, and look at the whole picture, no one's ever gone through this. There is no statistical analysis to build off of what happens when there's only 22 NBA teams, for example, in a bubble, no home court, X amount of players are missing. I mean, there's so many more criteria that have never had to be assessed before. So the people that have done it the same way and been crushing it, and more power to them for the last 5-6 years, it's a whole new ball game. This is new. We're talking about small sample size. How about no sample size? So, I think what we're doing is the way to do it. For me, I'm major NBA, so I'm spending good 2.5 hours every day looking at who's not going to report to the bubble, who's there, who's coming back from injury, what do those combination of players look like as far as usage and everything else. And I could go on and on about it, but the main thing is I want to let everybody know is, Andrew and Shane are doing the same thing in football. We're doing the same thing in our main sports in preparation, because this isn't where you just jump in and jump back on the same horse that rode before this COVID thing hit. It's a whole new game, and I think we're going to have an edge like nobody else. So I can't wait. I'm just chomping at the bit, man, chomping at the bit. So we do want to thank our sponsors for bringing this show forward today. That's mybookie.ag, the place to go for all your sports wagering and casino action. Go to mybookie.ag and put in the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, and you receive an exclusive offer of 50% of your sign-up bonus, all the way up to $1,000, and a $25 free play just because you're a Coach Talk member. Also, our buddies at TVG, the place to go for horse racing. It's where the world watches and wagers on the ponies. And we have some pony lovers, even some pony owners in our members teams. So shout out to Roush out there in Australia. And TVG is awesome, man. I watch it a lot. Go to our DFSCoachTalk.com website. Click on the banner that says risk-free $300 bet TVG. It's right there blinking at you on our website. Click that, and you automatically get a risk-free bet of $300. So, man, find a horse, take your shot, box cart, and take it down, or get your money back. You can't beat it, man. It's awesome. So thankful to them. Quick thing, super important to us. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, below us, I believe it's this like and subscribe. Give us the thumbs up there. We really appreciate it. We're growing our subscribers every day on YouTube, and it's very important to us to get in there and get the word out, and making sure that we get this free in front of the paywall podcast out there, because I know a lot of providers don't. They'll have a podcast, but it's paywall. So we want to get some good info out there to people and let them start building some lineups. Whether you're a $5 a day player or a $5,000 a day player, we want to, we have a spot for you, Coach Talk, and we want to let you build to that. So, all right, we're going to dive into this nightmare of 5 possible rain games in KBO. So rather than me spouting off about it, why don't you explain to our listeners, if they haven't played KBO, because we've been all over it, what happens when it rains and there's like what there is now, 38, 25, 34, 30%. When there's those kind of rain chances, Andrew, what have we seen this season?
We've seen that they don't even think about playing baseball on those days. It's take a national holiday, take the buses back home. We'll regroup tomorrow. We'll have a doubleheader, but they don't mess around with wet fields, wet conditions. And at this point, it looks very likely that we could have at least 4 of the 5 games rained out. There's one game in the southwestern part of the country, that's Kiwoom at Kia. That's the 5th game we'll talk about today. There's a chance that that's the only one that plays, in which case we won't have a slate. You have to have more than one game. unless another game just starts for an inning or two, and then they postpone it. So the fifth game is going to be very important, but it's all up in the air. But you know what we're going to do is we're going to break it down in detail because we might just come back tomorrow and have these same matchups.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to attack all 5 games, and like Andrew said, really we haven't seen, and we really talked about this before the podcast, is we haven't seen them start a game an hour or too late. It just doesn't seem like that's what their plan is. Either they're going to play or they're going to cancel. Now we're recording this 15 hours before first pitch, and we did a full scale look at the radar, and we're experts at radar in South Korea now. Something I never thought I would have in my repertoire, but we looked at it, and it's odd. It's a front that's moving from south to north rather than west to east like usual. So the earliest spots to clear will be the southwest tip of South Korea and then move upward. So I think there's a chance. I'm going to be on the half full side of things and think that we may get 3 or 4 of these games in. So we're going to approach them like we always do. And then it just, the key factor is, and the edge that we have is we're in there about 40 minutes before lock. So 4:50 a.m. Eastern, we'll be in there. We'll look if there's any rainouts, any lineup changes. I mean, today was a perfect example. We were in there all, Shane and Andrew and myself, about half a dozen members at least that were in there. And we had a couple of key changes in a few of the lineups that ended up being huge. And shout out to you, Andrew, man. I was stuck with no third baseman because of the way the lineups shook. And I said, I need a third baseman, 2,900 or less. And he gives me the dude that's cheap, and he goes deep and just tears it up.
Yeah.
Twice. 2 homers.
Dihan from Lotte, man, he was our guy yesterday. Had a nice big finish in the big contest on DraftKings with him. 2 homers at 2,600, 32 fantasy points. He was big.
Amazing. And I'll tell you, it was fun last night. Because I was sweating with everybody because we were trying to take down all this stuff. It was so much fun watching Fernandez because I had him rostered, and he hit a ball so far. It was one of those where the right fielder just stood there. He didn't even move back. He didn't trot back. He just stood there, and we all watched it go about 18, 20 rows deep into the right field bleachers. But it was a lot of fun. So anyway, all right, let's attack these games. We'll also give you the betting odds from, of course, our friends at mybookie.ag. And I don't like to give late odds, so I'm refreshing my screen and going back over there right now so that we get you the latest up-to-date odds. So, of course, it always becomes more difficult to find now that they have real baseball stuff listed there. I will find it. It's just a matter of time. And now they have Japanese as well. What is going on here? All right, we'll find it. Let's go and look at game 1. We'll go through each game individually like normal and see what we need to attack from there. And as you start talking about this, I'll refresh that screen. So it's the NC Dinos 38-17 with Drew Rosinski, who's a sweet 7-1 with a 2.31 against the LG Twins and Chan-Gyu Lim. And I'm not going out on a limb like I did last week when I played him and he didn't do well. He's 4-2 with a 4.16. So why don't you tackle that game? 38% chance of rain. Right now, NC Dinos are minus 230, over under 9. So what do you got, buddy?
I think minus 230 is a little bit steep. I certainly agree with the Dinos being the favorite, but Chan-Gyu Lim is a very strong pitcher this year. He had a down game last outing against Samsung.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, right. But 3 straight quality starts before that, 54 strikeouts in only 54 and a third innings, and the Dinos haven't seen him this year. So I like his chances to do well. I don't like using pitchers against the Dinos, obviously. They're a great hitting lineup. But the way this slate works out, Lim is going to be in my players pool on DraftKings. And then Rosinski, a pretty solid option as well. He's a little bit more expensive on DraftKings, He also has an excellent strikeout ratio. First time that LG is getting to face him. So I'll have a little bit of exposure to him. And I don't think I'm going to use any of the bats in this game. It's maybe one of the pitchers here or there, and I'm going to stay away from the bats.
All right, I'm going to give you a little update here because I was scrambling to try to up. They moved the South Korea baseball with the new baseball, but I'm on our mybookie.ag updated feed here. And just so you know, the Dinos are at 208 now. So minus 208 over under 9.5. So I wanted to update that. For me, this is my plug and play 100% owned pitcher that I'm going to give out right here on our podcast, and that's Rosinski. I just think he's pitching well, consistent. I like his strikeouts. I know that the left-handed bats, power bats from LG scare you a little bit, but I'm okay with it. I feel, Ramos has a couple homers finally, but still only 2 in his last 50 at bats. So, I believe Rosinski is the best pitching play on the slate. And he's going to be in all my lineups. So I'm going to fade the LG players. I'm not, again, recency have a tendency to be sour if a guy lets you down. And Lim, after those decent outings in a row, I showed some faith and went out on a limb again. I'm going to tell my dumb joke until somebody laughs at it. And it did not work out. So I'm jumping back off the limb, and I'm, which is probably saying he may throw somewhere around a 2-hitter, something in that nature. But I am not going to go with him. In fact, I'm going to actually look at a couple left-handed bats at the top of the NC Dinos lineup. I like Minwoo Park and Young Ji Lee. I like their pricing. I like the potential and the splits. And that's where I'm looking in that first game.
Okay. Yeah, righties actually have hit a little bit better against him. So kind of a strange matchup. Minwoo Park was good for us last night on FanDuel. That he was in that lineup that Shane won with, and Justice, our member. So, I like Minwoo Park in general. He has gotten more expensive, especially on DraftKings.
Yeah, I know.
But you'll be a little bit lower owned with the Dinos hitters tonight if you do end up using them.
I think so. And even though Lim's a little bit better against lefties, Park and Lee are better against righties. So it's a reverse split, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go right to game 2. It's the Doosan Bears 33-23 against the Lotte Giants 26-28. Chris Flexen 3-3, 4.18 ERA. Junwon Seo 4-1 with a 3.99 ERA. And the updated mybookie.ag odds are the Doosan Bears minus 204, big favorite on the road. And this is the highest total game of all 5 at 10.5. So the question is, do you go with Flexen, the big favorite pitching-wise, or are these double-stack hitting teams with the 10.5 being the over-under?
Well, somewhere in the middle on Flexen. First of all, I think Doosan should be a bigger favorite in this game than the Dinos against LG. So in terms of Flexen against Lotte, he's another guy like Lim. I'll have a little bit of exposure to him. I'm not totally in love with him. He had his worst start of the season last outing against Hanwha. Only lasted 4 innings, 6 earned runs, 9 hits. He's been very good against Lotte. He's faced them twice. 11 innings, 2 earned runs combined. So I do like getting a little bit of exposure to Flexen, but we know that Lotte hits righties well. So Daeho Lee is an option, actually. When they faced off in the first game, he went 3 for 3 against Flexen. So at 3,800 on DraftKings, he's a value play that I'll have in a couple lineups. But I'm much more interested in these Doosan bats, shocker. And they're facing.
Why don't we just start every show with Andrew Doosan stack 3-star slate? Then we're good. All right, never mind. Sorry, well, I got to give it to you.
Well, the funny thing is, in the last couple of weeks, the way I've used Doosan has varied a little bit, and it hasn't been the traditional just stack the lefties in the middle of the order. But this is going to go back to one of those traditional Doosan stacks because Seo is not good against lefties. They're hitting 300 against him this year with 4 homers. He's also faced Doosan twice, so we've got a nice sample size. First outing, he was not good. Second outing, he was much better. But Fernandez, he hasn't been able to get him out. 2 walks in the first game, 2 hits in the second. Jae-Won Kim took him deep. Ju-Hwan Cha didn't play the first time. Second time, he was successful against him. So those, if they're hitting 2, 4, and 5 in the order, as I think they will, all 3 of those guys on DraftKings are going to be a big target for me. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to those sluggers for Doosan.
I don't blame you. I mean, Doosan does hit in bunches, and I think they are dangerous. I'm in the Chris Flexen corner, and I know I've been down on him a little bit. And the last game, you would think I'd jump off ship for sure. Like you mentioned, I'm just taking that game and throwing it in the garbage. I think it was just one of those odd games against a crappy team where he must not have been focused, and he got hammered. But if you look at the previous 6 games, 39 innings pitched, how many home runs do you think he's given up in those 6 outings, 39 total innings?
I'm going to say 0.
He gave up 1, which is still, in this league with the juice ball, that's some serious, pitching. Mm-hmm. That is key. And that's against the Dinos, Samsung, Kia, Lotte. It's not like it was Hanwha and SK. So I think he's steady. He's had, right before that last Hanwha game that I'm throwing out, he had 7 strikeouts against the Dinos and then 8 against Samsung. So he strikes out a bunch of guys. I think this is a good fit for him. I like this matchup, and I think, he comes out a little pissed about that last performance that sort of blew up his ERA a little bit. So I'm on the Flexen side, therefore will not be playing the Lotte bats. But I'm with you on Doosan. I think you can look up and down this lineup, and I always am fearful, and I try to pick my spots with Fernandez because I don't understand why you would really want to pitch to him. I mean, the ball he hit a million miles that I talked about at the beginning of the game was right down the center of the plate. I mean, you give a guy like that an 88-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle, I mean, that ball's, tape measure. So I'm concerned. So my thing is there, he's so expensive, but he's worth it. But I like the guys behind him tonight. I just think that if they do pitch around him, Kunwoo Park and Jae-Hwan Kim and even JLO, those guys are all capable of rocketing the ball. So I'm leaning more towards the middle of the lineup stack for Doosan and going with the Doosan pitcher. So, again, I give a lot of my plays away on this podcast, and, hopefully you build out the rest of them and take some stuff down. But, if you want full lineups, I do a full lineup for FanDuel. Just jump in for a month membership. Go to dfscoachtalk.com. Doesn't start until July 30th, and we're taking stuff down left and right. So 3 more weeks, 21 full days from today until the clock starts on your membership. So jump in, make some money. You can't beat it. So for me, I feel so comfortable that it's, I'm already talking 4 or 5 stars, and it's because I really like the Ruzinski Flexen duo in these 2 matchups against LG and Lotte.
Yeah, it's a strong duo for sure.
I'm going to be doing the anti-rain dance here, big time. All right, game 3, my man. SK Wyvern 17-39, Hanwha Eagles 14-42. You have Jo-Han Kim, 0-4, 7.20, and Min Woo Kim 1-5, 4.85. So combined 1-9 record is not exactly something that you look forward to seeing that pitching duo. But the game is Hanwha minus 144. That's interesting that they're a minus 144. They haven't been that very often this year. Over under in that game is 9.5. So what do you make of this game of 2 teams that aren't exactly playoff contenders, to say the least?
I like this game. I've got some clarity on it. At least I feel like I do. I like Hanwha here. Strange words to come out of my mouth, but wow. That's what's happening.
We're gonna post that snippet.
Yeah, actually just erase that. But so in terms of the hitters, They are facing Kim, who is a reliever turned starter, and he's had 3 starts. He had 2 solid ones, but he was bad in the last one. And here's his average point total on DraftKings, negative -0. 0.6. So ERA over 7, WHIP almost 2. Lefties and righties hit him well. So I'm looking at the top 5 hitters for Hanwha. I'll build a couple mini stacks. Unfortunately, these aren't the stacks where you're hoping to get 3 or 4 home runs, like with the Doosan stack.
Yeah.
But, decent prices for these guys. They can steal bases. I'm talking about Y. Lee at the top, the outfielder for 3,900. E. Jung, second base, third base, 4,200. And then even Ju Seok Ha, the shortstop, he's 4,500, a little bit pricey. But I'll have some exposure to those lefties and hope they can work together, string together some hits and stolen bases and runs. And then on the flip side, I actually like Min-Woo Kim tonight. His numbers aren't great. He's given up 9 home runs for Hanwha. But he has 54 strikeouts in only 50 innings pitched. His biggest weakness is facing lefties. And we know that SK doesn't have any scary lefty power hitters. No. And Jung Cha is out of the lineup. So it's a great matchup for him. And the last 3 starts that he's had, his earned runs have been decreasing from 3 to 2 to 1. And those matchups were against the Dinos, the KT Wiz, and Doosan. So he's in a really nice stretch here. He's only 7,100 facing SK. So I'm going to have some exposure to him.
I think that's a great play. I really do. I mean, at 7,100, it brings bats into play that you normally wouldn't be able to get. And, Vegas isn't normally wrong. And if they have the guts to put Hanwha at minus 144, that has a little staying power. And I'm with you. I don't think SK has really any pop from the left side at all in their lineup, in my opinion. Maybe Tay and Che, if he really gets a hold of one, but I'm just not that much there. So I do like him in our pool for pitchers, and he will be an option if I go a second lineup to get and buy up on an extra bat, maybe like a Fernandez. As far as the hitting goes, the pricing is right. I may pluck 1, 2 at the very most guys out to fill my lineup out with some guys that can hit, because you're right. I mean, Johan Kim is not good at all. It's just like you say, there's such a need to have potential homers from your guys, because that quick swing in the bat, especially if there's somebody on base, like last night, perfect example, boom, 3-run homer by Han, 18 points. I went from like 106 to second. So it's just like boom. So it, and I don't see a lot of consistent pop in that Hanwha lineup. No. There are some guys that could gap some doubles, and if anybody can be hit, it's this guy. So, I'm not going to fade Hanwha, but I'm not going to stack him either. So,
okay.
All right, Game 4, Samsung Lions against the KT Wiz. Yoon Dong Hyo at 2-0 with a 3.60 against the Wiz. William Cuevas 3-2 with a 5.06. And the updated odds on my bookie are KT Wiz minus 204, over under 9.5.
Well, we talked on a recent podcast about the consistency, death, taxes. I don't remember what it was. Maybe me stacking Doosan, maybe me naming it a 3-star slate, something along those lines. But here's another one for you. The Samsung pitcher tonight, this little lefty, Hyo, 5 straight games where he's pitched exactly 5 innings and 3 earned runs or less. So he's been this steady little 5-inning outing pitcher who hasn't gotten rocked yet. But this might be the day. I'm going to have some exposure to KT. They destroy lefties. He's not overpowering. So I like Jay Bay. I'm expecting him to be at the top of the lineup, the outfielder for only 3,400. Then we start to get really expensive. Jay Huang at 6,400. He's been on fire, but that's a lot. That's a lot of dough. So I probably will move more towards Rojas in the 3-hole at 6,500. I feel much better about a big game. Speaking of a power game that we won't get from Hanwha, I like it more from Rojas here. And then HU at 3,300. He's another nice value. of an outfielder who can hit some extra bases. So, and then, when we talk about stacking KT against a lefty, you really can keep going down the lineup. K Park, the second baseman, 3,500. He's a nice option. He's played well lately. Their catcher, S. Jung, 3,400. He can go deep. So, along with Doosan, these are the two games where I'm going to try to stack more of these power hitters and look for the long ball.
Yeah, I like the KT bats as well. That's my secondary stack. I'm not doing monster 4 or 5 man stacks. It's not like I'm dying on a team here, but I do like the Doosan like 3-man and KTW 3-man. Now, yeah, it's easy to say that, and then you try to get these $6,000 guys in your lineup. So I know, I'm not saying something that you can't possibly do, but you're not going to be able to play both Huang and Rojas and Fernandez and Park. And you're going to have to make some choices, and you can still make it work. They're KTW. I like, I like Huang. I like Rojas. I like Kang. I think and I think Bay is a fantastic play. So you got the mixture of those guys making it work with the mini stack of Doosan, and then filling in with some cheap one-offs from like Hanwha and a couple of the teams where you can get some bargains, I think is really my strategy as well. Because I'm with you. I don't know how this Hio guy has not gotten smashed. I think he's due to just get lit. I think this is like one of those 2 2/3 6 earned run kind of games. Yep. He doesn't have much, and to be 2-0 with a 3.60 is pretty shocking. But let's look real quickly who he's pitched against, because it's so he pitched against LG, but then he had Hanwha. He pitched against Doosan, got hit a little bit. He had Lotte that he pitched pretty decent against, but I don't feel confident with him.
And I was watching that outing against Lotte.
Yeah.
And Daiho Lee hit a big home run foul. They just missed crushing him. They had guys on the bases. They had 8 base runners in 5 innings. He just kept getting out of jams. It was just by a whisker. And I'm with you. They could certainly run him out of there with 6 or 7 innings, with 6 or 7 runs within 2 or 3 innings.
I may do a build with like a silly like 5-man stack of their guys too, because he's only pitched 5 games and only 25 innings, like you say. I can do the math on that. I think it's 5 innings per out, and 25 hits. So a hit an inning, 10 earned runs, already 3 homers. Here's a more troublesome thing: 15 walks in 25 innings, only 11 Ks. So yeah, this just smells like a stack against Fella. So we'll see how that goes. Anything else on that game?
No, not really interested in the other matchup. Cuevas, ERA over 5. He's given up 5 home runs. This is the first time Samsung was going to see him. He wasn't good in his last outing against Kiwoom. You could look at a couple of these lefties. Hyman Park, we'll see where he's batting in the order. He's been moving around. Jawook Koo, 4,700. He's probably my favorite option. So maybe a one-off from Samsung.
Yeah, I don't trust Cuevas enough to roster him for sure, but I don't want to stack against him either in this matchup at KT. So, all right, Game 5, the game most likely to go, the only single digit with an 8% rain chance. Guess what? We're down. 18% chance of rain, 12%, 21%, 16%, and 8%.
All right. Well, maybe all this work will pay off, and we'll actually have some baseball tonight or tomorrow morning.
Somebody leaked this already, and they heard my meteorology description of the front moving out to the north. We're going to get all 5 of these in. Let's go. All right. Kia and at home against Kiwoom. Kiwoom's 35-22. Kia's 28-55. For Kiwoom, it's Wan Tae Cha, 4.05 ERA with 4 wins and 3 losses. And Hyung Jong Yang, the lefty, 5-5 with a 5.5, not 5, 8 ERA, or he'd had something special going there. My bookie has Kiwoom is a 123 road favorite, and the over-under is 8.5. So what do you think, sir?
Well, I think one of the key matchups of the night, especially if we only have a couple games, is going to be the Kiwoom pitcher, Cha, this righty, against Kia and their lefties. Now, somehow, he's had 2 excellent outings against Kia. 12 innings, only 2 earned runs. But for the season, lefties are hitting 300 against him with 5 homers. And Kia has some of the best lefties in the league. But again, somehow he's managed to hold Tucker to 1 for 6 on the season.
Wow.
H. Cha 1 for 5. MU 1 for 4. And none of them has gotten anything more than a single. So
Crazy.
2 outings, he's really mastered them. I don't know if he can do it 3 times in a row, but I'm not going to stack Kia against him either.
Right.
We love Doosan and KT tonight, so we don't need to. But I do think that's going to be a key matchup. But I'm not going to go for 3 in a row. I just don't trust that he can hold them down again. So I'm mostly going to stay away from that matchup. And then on the other side, I think Yang is better than the mid-5s ERA that he has. He has been shelled lately in 2 of the last 3. He's given up 8 home runs. But I'm not going to get after these Kiwoom bats too much. Jung-Ho Lee has done well against him in their 2 outings. He had a double the first game, triple the second. Byung-Ho Park hasn't faced him yet. So that's the guy I'm looking at. He's only 4,300 on DraftKings. Big, his power strokes picked up lately. He's up to 15 homers. So I'll have a little bit of exposure to Byung-Ho Park, but not much else from this game.
Yeah, what's weird is, we've all sort of chased the fact that, when you do all the studying before the KBO we started providing, everybody was talking about this Yang guy like he was this master left-handed Cy Young style pitcher. I mean, he's getting 1.9 million, which is incredibly huge salary for that league. I mean, you get, a lot of guys making under 100K. So, I mean, to get almost $2 million annual salary, he's 32 years old. And so he's had some good seasons in the past. I mean, if you look at his ERA last year, it was 2.29 with a whip right at 1. So, but obviously major regression this year, no doubt about it. I mean, his ERA is in the mid-5s, and we just keep looking for him to turn the corner and throw one of those, really solid games. And he just hasn't done it. Almost 60 innings pitched, only 42 strikeouts, which is way below what he had done in the past. He had 163 last year and had averaged right in the 160s for like 6 years in a row. So I would say if you haven't already done it, it's definitely time to jump off of the Yang bandwagon of this guy might be the best pitcher in the league, because he's not.
No.
And so I don't like him. I'm not going to play him, but I'm not going to stack against him. I like, Jung-Ho's usually going to make my lineup a lot, but I know he's hit him. But lefty. I'm just going to chill on this game a little bit. I think you're going to have a few people that might stack a guy or 2 more in this game because it has the least chance of rain. For those guys that don't, and you got to look at those little tiny silly things, because if you're between 2 guys and you don't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning to fix your lineup, you may want to go with a Kiwoom Kia guy. So I'm going to look at the opposite side of that. I'm prepared. I'm going to be up. I'm going to make the changes, and I'm going to fade this game as much as I can. I really am. I don't need anybody from this game. I don't like some of the pricing, and the pitchers are, have potential to have decent outings, but aren't either one pitching very well. So I think I'm all set on my pitching and hitting, and I'll just wave goodbye to this game and its 8% rain chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the edge there, the perspective. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build 2 lineups. One heavily using this game in case it's one of 2 games that play, but really, plan to build the 5-game slate. And in that build, I will have very little exposure to this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We're on the same page. All right, a couple quick things. Follow us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. We had a lot of wonderful tweets, members and stuff posting wins from last night, some really cool stuff. Obviously, we've mentioned, and hopefully you're watching us on YouTube, DFS Coach Talk, search there. Check out some of our library of podcasts. You can also on Instagram, it's DFS Coach Talk, and our website, dfscoachtalk.com. We want to thank our sponsors, mybookie.ag and tvg.com. Both have exclusive offers with the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, not two, and take advantage of those. Our membership, 3 weeks more free. 3 weeks go where we're KBO and PGA, and that first half a week or so of baseball, and then everything clicks live, with membership starting up on the 30th when we have NBA and MLB going. Quick shout out to our charity of choice here at DFS Coach Talk. That's mambaon3.org, all spelled out, MAMBAONTHREE.org. Our wonderful charity in Kobe's memory for the families from the people that were perished in that horrible accident, which also happened this year. This year's been such a blur with things, but you know what? The good part is we've got the second half of this year to bounce back. We're going to start, things are going to stay open. Sports are going to come back. We have distractions. We're going to get through this, and we're excited to be a part of it here at DFS Coach Talk. And, again, we never want to make light of any life situations. We know a lot of people are suffering without jobs right now. There's people sick. There's all of that going on. And, our prayers and thoughts are with all those people. But we always approach this with, it's the biggest thing in the world, because we want it to be a distraction and an opportunity for people to have a hobby where they're not donating money, but they're making money. And, when you watch and you're winning, and it's just so much more fun. So we're there. We're going to be here for you throughout. We'll do whatever we need to do to adjust to whatever the situation is. And, we're just going to feel very confident that all the major sports are coming back. And we're going to be at the forefront and be prepared more than anybody else out there that I can see, in my opinion. So any final words from you, Mr. Hansen?
Yeah, I'll echo that. It's a lot of fun. Nights like last night where we have a lot of members with big nights. We all get to celebrate together. So definitely encourage you all to come check us out, get that month membership with basically 3 weeks of bonus time this month. So it's a great time to join the family. And again, take advantage of all this KBO research that we've done every slate all season, and it's really paying off.
Fantastic. And shout out to our YouTube follower. He's been so awesome lately.
Stay inspired. Yeah,
stay inspired, man.
For him last night on FanDuel. Congrats again, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, and thanks for the good shout outs too. So we appreciate everybody. Have a great day. No doubleheader today, but doubleheader tomorrow. I get to be on both tomorrow. I get to do KBO with Sugar, and then I get to do PGA with Andrew. And I don't even want to talk about PGA right now. We'll talk about that later. But let's just say you're gonna want to check that PGA show out, because the old coach here is going to do the flushola and start from scratch for the weekend. So it's going to be a good show for sure.
Yep.
All right. Awesome job, Andrew. Appreciate you. And so for Sugar Shane and all the DFS Coach Talk family and my partner here, Andrew Hansen, I am Coach. We will catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.